Furious, baby. I heard Hector's gonna be running 3 Honda Civics with spoon engines. And he just came into Harry's. Something about a Motec system exhaust.
Yeah.
What is going on, guys? Eric from Bolts and Banter here on the streets of New York City, and I'm happy to finally introduce the Cheapie Honda Civic and that we are done with phase 1 of the project. I'm going to do a quick walk around, show you guys what we did with it, but when you guys saw this in the intro video, it rolled off the back of a tow truck because it was broken, did not run. It cranked, but it didn't start. And hold on one second, let's unlock the doors. It cranked, but it didn't start, and the diagnosis we had was it overheated, and it was because of a blown head gasket. Now, again, we bought this from a neighbor in town, and I had purchased it because he actually reached out to me. I left a note under this windshield last year asking to buy the car, and we couldn't make a deal back then. But he reached out to me and said that he wasn't looking to spend any more money on this car because it would just cost too much to fix. And I said, cool, you know what? I'm a DIY guy. We're gonna breathe life back into this. And that's exactly what we did. So we're sitting in the Cheapie Civic now. It is kind of cold outside. So let's start with a tour of the inside first. Show you guys what we did on the inside, and then when that's done, we'll go outside. Again, I've put about 1,200 miles on this since purchasing the car. That's 1,200 trouble-free miles, no breakdowns, nothing exploded, nothing caught fire. So the repairs are good and the car is good. And one of the reasons why this car was actually appealing was because it only had 54,000 miles on it before I purchased it. So super low mileage, the body's straight. It has wear and tear for a 28-year-old car, and that's to be expected. Nobody expected this to be a car that anybody would want beyond a couple of years. So it's good that it survived in the condition that it's in now, and for phase 1 we just wanted it to look decent and look like it was in one piece, and then we'll go ahead and we'll do more work to it later. Just the interior, it's super clean in here. It's a DX model, so it doesn't have much inside, and there's just a lot of switch blanks. Like this would be for the power mirror, and this would be for a fog switch, or cruise control I believe is over here. It doesn't have a clock, and we couldn't find one at the junkyard, so that's going to be an ongoing quest. But yeah, it's super clean. All we did was clean up the dashboard, wipe down this gunky steering wheel as you guys saw in one of the episodes. I also changed out the radio to an OEM radio because the aftermarket ones, although they're better in functionality and sound, simply don't fit the way that this unique DIN size fits in. So I have a couple of these in the stash. This one cost me 20 bucks from the pick and pull, and I just took the VIN number from the donor car and got the code online when I purchased this, and then wrote the code on the side so I'd never forget. But it works great. I use it with a tape adapter or this Bluetooth adapter that I also didn't pay for because I got it from the junkyard and they don't charge for these. Everything else here works. The glove box is a storage center for napkins, straws, and also sweet and sour sauce, I think. There's probably one in there. Yep. And that's it. The only thing we did beyond that, spent money on, was the MagSafe mount, which was I think $20 on Amazon, And then I also bought the floor mats for $24 from Walmart, and they don't fit the best, but they'll work and they'll protect what's left of the OEM carpets underneath. In terms of modifications to the interior, not much was done. We did change the speakers, front and rear, so they're both from Best Buy, just some cheap pairs. We'll go over the costs later, actually. And then I also had to replace the seat belt on this side from one in the junkyard, because the one that came with the car did not do a very good job of retracting anymore. So this one we'll have to do until we figure out what to do with the OEM seat belt, but I'll be keeping it just in case we can still repair it. On the rear deck, you'll actually see those OEM speaker grills, which are from an EX model, and they're from the Acoustic Research speaker system that was available on the EXs. I only got the grills because the grills that came with the car were aftermarket and they didn't fit well. The people who installed the speakers that came with the car didn't do that great of a job. So I cleaned that up with the wiring, with some harnesses that are also from the junkyard, and put those OEM speaker grills in, and they look pretty good. So I'm gonna keep those there, and they only cost about $5 or so from the junkyard, so I'd consider that to be a score. Things that you don't see, but we did work on, are the OEM door lock actuators inside the door. You can get them from DC Integras or from LX and EX model EGs. They fit right into the latch for the door, so it's an OEM fit, and you don't have to bug around with any aftermarket poppers that you'd have to drill holes into the door for. And I do like things clean, and I do like things OEM when possible, so those door lock actuators were, I think, 10 bucks and 20 bucks from eBay. They got shipped to my door, and I'm also going to pick up a couple of spares from the junkyard the next time I go. Underneath the dashboard is the Avital alarm that you guys saw us use earlier. It is a 4105, the cheapest remote start system that I could find, and it also gave us access to the keyless entry function. So I wired that up to a DEI 451M relay, and then hooked that up to the brain of the Avital, and then wired up wires through the doors for the door lock actuators. And now we have keyless entry with OEM actuators, and we also have remote start. So super cool, and it was a cheap system. This was the cheapest DEI product that I could find. I decided to go with the DEI product only because I've installed them before, and not to mention, I think they're pretty reliable. So for 40 bucks for an alarm system, can't really complain. Everything else works. The AC works, the heater works, all of the vent options work. The only thing is the AC button is sometimes intermittent. You guys will see that once we put the key in. So that light is sometimes intermittent, so we're gonna need to fix that. And when I got it, the D4 bulb was out, so I swapped that with the D1, but then after I swapped it, the D1 started lighting up, so I'll need some bulbs for spares there. But that's the only work we did, apart from cleaning up the interior. We gave it a couple of vacuums just to get all the dirt out. And as you guys can see, the seats are still pretty dirty. That's only because I haven't shampooed these with our carpet cleaner yet. It's just simply too cold outside to do it, and I want to make sure to do it on a hot day. That way the interior dries out and doesn't get any smelly. But that's it for the interior. Let's hop outside. The interior of the car is actually pretty clean, and I would say that the exterior is a little bit more rough around the edges than the interior is. This car's been in 3 previous accidents. The first and the third one were on this fender, and the second one was, I think, a little bit bigger. It's when they had to spray the hood as well as this the blending of the side here, and the clear coat's clearly failing. The body shop didn't do that great of a job, and this this fender here, the fitment is okay, but you can tell that they just didn't care about the repair. Anyway, all of the panels are OEM. There's no rust. The only panel that's not OEM is actually the fender over there that we replaced after seeing that the OEM fender would be very, very difficult to repair. Other than the paint fading on the right side, the paint is actually in pretty good condition, and I've only ran this through the automated car wash twice by using a free coupon because it is the Cheapie Honda Civic build. We're gonna try to polish out the paint. There's a couple of small dents, and the roof is also really dented, as you guys can see. We're gonna try to polish this out. It looks like we can breathe a little bit of life into the paint, but I'm not sure how much clear coat there is left. We will do some polishing when it gets a little warmer. That way we can get rid of all of the residual pinstriping here. I got some of it off, but as I went closer to here, it looks like there's clear coat over this. Not really sure. The rubber wheel wasn't doing a good job of trying to burn this off, and I didn't want to burn the paint, so we're going to leave that at that for now. The other things we did buy this aftermarket fender, and then we repainted it. The fitment of the fender is not that perfect, and of course the paint job is not that perfect either. You guys can see there's a little bit of metallic overlapping here, and there isn't much dusting. And the 2K clear from the Spray Max can, I don't think I laid enough coats down, so that's why it looks the way it looks, but it looks a lot better than where we got it. We haven't polished the paint out yet, so I'm pretty sure a lot of these scuffs can come out. It's going to be left with that scratch and the spider cracking, but we're going to leave it at that. It is the Cheapie Honda Civic build, and honestly, all of the dents and the fading paint do give the car a bit of character. Other things that we did on the exterior of the car were change the quarter lamps to these Vision clear lamps, and that's only because we needed to replace that one side anyway. These are super hard to find in the junkyard as OEM, and when you find them, they're usually cracked or in terrible condition, so we just changed those. Those were 20 bucks. We'll go over all the costs later. And I also replaced the headlight on this side with an OEM one from the junkyard that I got for 20 bucks, and that's because the one that came with the car had broken mounts over there. We added new wipers. Those are from Costco on sale. We do need to respray these SEM trim black when the weather gets warmer. We sprayed these in SEM trim black. That's only because these are made from some fiberglass material, and they were deeply pitted over there. You guys can still see some of that pitting, but at least now it's in that black. It looks a lot better. We got these HX wheels all from the junkyard, all at different times, but we made a clean set of 4, and then I sprayed those in that Rust-Oleum silver paint, as well as that 2K Spray Max clear, and they came out pretty good. Some of the rash is still there, so we're not going to get rid of that, but we did make the wheel setup much better than OEM. Sealy's, and the car actually came with tires from like 2003, and they were all mismatched in size, so I'm glad that we got these on. We also changed the brakes. The brakes were closeout from Rock Auto, and the pads were from Amazon, only because the closeout pads from Rock Auto that we got were the wrong ones. And I also just freshened up this brake caliper over here with some paint that I had, silver caliper paint in the garage, so that didn't come at any additional cost. And like I said, we refreshed this with SEM trim black. That's really it for the exterior. It cleaned up pretty well, and it could still stand for an entire polish and a clay bar and all that. So other than that, it's a super clean body for being 55,000 miles. No rust on it at all. That's a real big reason why I decided to pick this car up. And except for those 3 accidents, the 2 fender benders and then the one bigger one that required a respray of the front radiator support, the body's pretty straight. So it hasn't been hit in the back, and like I said, no quarter panel rust, no rocker rust, so pretty good car. Anyway, let me pop open the hood and show you guys what's going on here, and then we'll pop the trunk to show you what's planned for phase 2 of the Cheapie Civic build. All right, so under the hood, here's where we have that D15 that wasn't running when we purchased it. Like I said, this was from the gas station where it finally gave up the ghost. The car overheated, blew a head gasket, and the radiator also cracked. So we fixed all of that. The gasket that I used was a Felpro gasket on wholesale closeout from Rock Auto, and that was an $11 gasket. All the other parts were also from closeout, or if we couldn't get it on sale, or if we needed to buy OEM, we got OEM for that. Anyway, so what's under the hood that's new? Well, we have the head gasket that's new. We got new oil seals that are OEM over there. Head or a valve cover gasket, and the oil seals are also new spark plugs. We refreshed the valve cover gasket as well with some BHT wrinkle black that was just in the garage, so that didn't come at any additional costs. And then we also changed the timing belt and water pump with the Gates kit, because although it looks like the timing belt was inspected at 50,000 miles, it was definitely still the original belt. So we wanted this car to be reliable and a good daily driver that wouldn't let us down, so that was cheap insurance, and we were already more than halfway there. While we were there, we replaced the idler bearing for the AC and all the accessory belts as well. Fresh oil, new coolant, new radiator because the old one cracked. And then we also just got a couple of things from the junkyard, like this hose right here. And then we also got this bracket for a siren that I had laying around. We got the bracket from the junkyard only to make it cleaner, no drill installation. We topped up all the fluids, new power steering fluid, new brake fluid, and like I mentioned earlier, we also did new front brakes, so new pads, new rotors. And then we also did new shoes in the back while giving the drums just a fresh coat of paint because they were still good. That's it for the mechanical work. All of this stuff was sourced off Rock Auto as cheap as possible when we could, but not cutting corners to the point where we'd have to do the job again. It works very, very well. I put 1,200 miles on the car already, trouble-free. And again, we're getting ready to do more front-end suspension work because it does ride a little sloppy for a 28-year-old car, and that's where we're gonna focus on next. But we got the car running. It's super reliable, 30 mpg, no frills, costs about $26 to fill it up right now in New York, and that feels super good. Again, it's a reliable daily driver that I can start up, fire up anytime. I don't have any problems parking it in the city and getting worried about scratches or anything like that. And quite honestly, it's fun driving a 1995 in 2024. Anyway, let's go back inside. Let's go over the cost of the car. This car cost $3,000 from purchasing it to fixing it to paying for all the labor. So we're gonna put all of those numbers together and go down line by line exactly how we got to the $3,000 mark for the Cheapie Honda Civic. Before I forget, let's check out the trunk real quick just to show you what we've done over here. On the price list, we're going to mention the Michaels spend, and that's because we had to go to Michaels and get some foam material for the gaskets. There's a little bit of a leak when we got the car. The gaskets on this side of the trunk had failed, so that was letting water in. And then when we got it, there was also just the busted up cardboard, so I went to Home Depot and got thin kind of OEM like plywood, and then went ahead and cut that so I could glue the OEM carpet back to it. All we did here was throw the carpet into the wash a couple times to clean it out. And just a sneak peek, we have some plywood over there, which is going to reinforce the brackets that we're trying to screw down and mock up over there, because we're going to be putting in a cheap subwoofer, and that's going to be for phase 2 of the project. More on that later. But that's all we did with the trunk, just a new board because the old one was super gone. There was a hole in it because someone had left a battery in this trunk and let the battery leak out a bit. So thankfully it only damaged the cardboard, not anything else. But yeah, we're working on the sub build. That's over there. We've already got the ground wires ready to go. We fixed up the OEM stereo harness wiring over here, and we just have some no-cut harnesses that we got from the junkyard, as well as some bass blockers, also from the junkyard, to kind of help our terrible sounding speakers. Elephant in the room, we have these auto locks here. We're going to be selling these on eBay. That way we can use the profits to pay for phase 2 of the Cheapie Honda Civic build. But yes, that's why we have those here, and we probably will be saving one for the Cheapie Honda Civic. You never know. Anyway, that's it for the trunk. Let's go back inside. Let's talk about how much this whole project cost and how we got to the $3,005 mark. All right, so we are inside the Cheapie Civic right now because it is a little bit too cold outside. There's no sunlight and it's windy. So we're just gonna go over the cost of all of the parts spend and all of the labor spend that we needed to have for this Cheapie Civic in order to get it running. And like I said, we managed to keep the cost at budget. So the budget for this car was about $3,000, including everything that we needed to spend on it. The only thing that's not included there would be the insurance and the registrations. What we did was try to get the car as close to $3,000 as possible, and fortunately we did. So the total cost for this project is $3,005, and let me get the cents because this is the Cheapie Civic. $3,005.77. So in order to get to that final figure, we actually start at the top. So the car cost $1,160. That was down from the $1,500 asking price, and to be honest, I think I still overpaid for the car. It's realistically a $500 to $700 car, and that's not lowballing. It's the fact that the car didn't run, and not even the fact that it didn't run, it was neglected. So all in all, I do think I overpaid for the car. Had I wished I paid less for it? Yes, but the price is the price. So that's $1,160. The tow truck to tow roughly about 3 or 4 miles was $185, and I do realize I could have saved a little money there by using a U-Haul dolly, but we were short on time, so I'll let that slide. The parts from Rock Auto came in 2 orders, and it was $129 for the first order and $131 for the second order. And those 2 orders were the belts, the head gasket, timing belt and water pump, and then the front brakes. I did pick as many closeout items as possible, and I also tried to combine the shipping. That way I didn't have to pay multiple shipping costs from multiple Rock Auto warehouses. So those 2 orders were the bulk of the parts that we saw at the intro video for the Civic EG. And I think that's it in terms of big parts spend. A couple of other things, the corner lamps were purchased on eBay for $20. The aluminum radiator that I had initially purchased from eBay ended up costing $19.73 in return shipping. I had returned that because it didn't fit, and I had to buy a radiator from AutoZone, which was $80 or so. I'll get to that later on down the list. The tires were from Pep Boys on closeout, and they were $124 after taxes, and I paid a total of about $92 to dismount and then remount the tires I purchased onto the new wheels that I painted and also get them balanced. So roughly about $102 in wheel mounting and dismounting costs. The head needed to get resurfaced, so that went to a machine shop, and that cost $217.25, which is a little more expensive than expected. Originally, I had just wanted the machined head and just get it surfaced, and that's it. But Dad insisted that we check the valve seats as well. So the guy at the machine shop did that. $217.25 cash for all of that, and the head machining turned out to be just what we needed. The dowels for the head were on eBay for $8.68. The cam oil seals were also from eBay and also OEM. That was $16.25. I paid $5 for a Carfax report just to see what the history on the car was. Again, just an extra expense that doesn't need to be included, but we're putting it in there because this is the Cheapie Civic. I bought an OEM key blank from eBay for $9.18 and a replacement aftermarket fender for $47.58. That was the cheapest fender that I could find, even scouting out sites like Rock Auto and other sites online selling body parts. I bought an Avital 4105 remote start, which you guys saw earlier, installed that myself. And I also bought power door lock actuators from an LX model EJ or EG Civic, and those allowed me to add powered door locks and keyless entry to the car without having to use those universal door lock poppers. The Ray Bestos front brake pads were from Amazon, and that was $14.89. That was because the original Rock Auto order had shipped me brake pads that didn't fit the Civic. They were from a different car, and so that was a misshipment. Had to buy them on Amazon instead. On Best Buy's Black Friday sale, I got JVC front door speakers for $21.71. Some other stuff, we'll just run down the list. I needed to buy oil for the first start, so that was a $6.28 quart of oil from Walmart. The other quarts I had laying around in the garage from junkyard finds. I went to AutoZone to buy a thermostat gasket, and I went to Advance to buy a thermostat, so that was $14 and $12. When we went to the junkyard on our junkyard run, I bought a headlight and some other miscellaneous parts, and that ended up costing $80.58 from both junkyards. I went to Michael's to buy some foam to fix the taillight gaskets in the back, and that was $3.23. I bought an AC bearing from Advance Auto Parts for $7.05. Needed a replacement AC belt from AutoZone because the first one shredded from over tightening, so that was $15. I also bought a couple of things on eBay, like brake lines for $28, wiper blades from Costco for $17, ATF DW1 for the transmission fluid flush on Amazon for $45.79, an OEM radiator cap for $8.68. I bought floor mats from Walmart as well as additional quarts of oil so I can get free shipping for Walmart same delivery, and that ended up costing $43.32. And I paid $21.05 from Home Depot for wood to fix the rear trunk floor. Last but not least was a $32.57 spend at Best Buy because the rear speakers in the back turned out to be really crusty, and one of them was actually blown. So to actually complete this build and have a functioning stereo, I added those speakers in the back. They were on sale, originally about $60. So again, the total for all of this was $3,005.77. So that brings the first phase of the Cheapie Civic to an end. Can you build buy, fix, restore a car that's cheap and reliable that you can use every day for less than $3,000? The answer is yes. Could I have built it a little cheaper? Yes, I could have saved about $200, $300 if I didn't need the tow and I didn't need the extra machining, and if I cut corners on fluids and whatnot. You could save a little bit, but not bad the way that we did it. And a lot of this was sponsored by the junkyard. I had some of these parts laying around from previous junkyard hauls. The wheels were from the junkyard, and the OEM stereo was also from the junkyard. So if I were to add those to the list of things I spent money on for the car, then we're looking at about $3,100. It was 80 bucks for the wheels and 20 bucks for the stereo. So that is it for phase one of the build. The goal was to get the car running, and as you guys know, it came on a tow truck. So we got it running, we got it inspected, we got it to be a reliable daily driver. But as I log more and more miles on this, I know that there are going to be problems that come up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it a wrap for phase one of this build, but phase two is going to be chasing the other problems that I know for sure will come up. I'm getting a little bit of a wheel rattle, some sort of a noise coming up, and it's intermittent, so I think the wheel bearings are going to need to be replaced. And what you guys didn't see in this video is I have some wiring already set in the trunk and the floor reinforced, because I'm looking to add a subwoofer just like the kind of sub that I would want in my car if I was in high school again. So I have that sub, but we're gonna save that for another video, and that's gonna be phase two of the build. Try to improve the stereo while keeping it looking OEM, not attracting that much attention, and of course, trying to keep the costs low. This is the Cheapie Civic through and through, and no matter what phase I am in this project, we're gonna do it on the cheap, and we're gonna try to be as cost effective and as smart with the money as much as possible. Anyway, I'm Eric from Bolts and Banter, and that concludes the first ever full-length build series on this channel. If you liked these videos, and if you want to see more Cheapie Civic content, as well as driveway DIY content or any kind of car content, please feel free to subscribe, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Bolts and Banter for more daily updates, more bolts, more banter. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one.